Yeah, we're not doing an intro this week. Welcome to That Real Texas Team podcast number 18. And the Titans have entered the chat.
That's right.
We are, of course, I'm Curtis. I'm the host of the channel. With me, as always, is Ron. We're the Texans on this, show. And then we're joined today by the host of the Titans podcast, Titans Takeaways, part of the CPN brand, Mayr Shelley. Bro, how are you doing?
Man, I'm good. I just really just thought in my head, I really should have worn my Oilers jersey, but I guess since I'm coming on you guys' show, maybe I shouldn't be so disrespectful. But it's all good.
You could
I'm
have done
good.
that. We,
I
we, we
I could.
welcome that kind of chaos.
Yeah, I'm good though. I'm good though. It's even
We
I don't
love
even
the
see it over there. It's around here somewhere. I ain't worried about it. No big deal.
Is it the Henry one?
No, I have a Kevin Byard one.
Oh, sick, sick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe button. If you're a Titans fan, you're just checking us out for Mayr, of course. Go
Mhm.
ahead and follow him on Twitter at Midtown Mayr, as well as head over to Titans Takeaways and give a like and a subscribe over there. So Jerry Hughes is back. He's a Houston native. Obviously, he spent a large portion of his career in Buffalo, the last now 3 seasons that he's contractually obligated to play for. Have been in Houston, and he's been pretty productive. 12 sacks over the last couple years for a guy that we were expecting to be rotational and ended up playing a lot of minutes. How are you feeling about it, Ron?
I love it. I'm in love with it. Like to bring back, one of those veterans that really helped us out last year. I think he's going to have a lot of pull. I get not pull, but like to get like he's going to give a lot of experience to the younger guys that are still coming up.
Yeah, we do have a couple in the room, so I definitely agree with that. I basically was going to echo that, so I don't really have another comment on that. Mayr, what do you think about Jerry Hughes coming back?
I mean, obviously, guys, I hate it. I hate it, to be honest. But from just a Tex, if I was a Texan fan, how I would feel about it. I mean, you can't have too many pass rushers.
It's true.
You also you got I wouldn't say stole, but you got Danico Autry from us. That's going to be a great addition to the middle of your defensive line. You've already got Will Anderson. You've already got Daniil Hunter. So I mean that's enough pass rushers right there as is, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. So I mean you guys are loading up, man.
Yeah.
You got to
Trying
respect
our
it.
hardest. Trying our hardest. It's going to be a
Yep.
long season, and apparently they're only going to get longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into this first a little bit here. My first question: what have the Titans been up to? What should the Texans fans that are, really just kind of honing in on what Houston's doing?
Mhm.
What should they know that the Titans have been up to?
Well, the Titans, they have improved their wide receiver core. Adding a Calvin Ridley. Obviously, we've already had DeAndre Hopkins. We've got some draft picks that's in there as well. For the past couple of years, we've had NWI be our most of the time our second, at least since AJ Brown departed, he's been probably our second best wide receiver, and he's going to be pushed down, probably to about the fourth option, which he's going to be most effective in that particular position. Our secondary is much better, adding one of the better cornerbacks in the league in Janarius Sneed. We've also got Roger McCrary too as well. So the secondary is going to be a lot better. We're still looking for that free safety, but I think the Titans have definitely have got something up their sleeve. I also would look out, for this defensive line as well. Jeffrey Simmons is going to be coming back healthy this year. We've got Harold Landry coming back from his ACL. Last year was his first year off the ACL, and he performed well. But it's usually that second year that you really
Yeah.
see guys pop. We also in the draft. We got the brother from Texas. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. Probably because
Sweat.
it's 9 p.m. Sweat. Yeah, he's my neighbor. He literally lives in the building next to me. So I'm excited to see what he does on the football field. So I think the Titans. I'm really conflicted on how many games they're going to win this year, but I think the product on the field is definitely going to be much better.
Okay. I mean, I kind of figured that would be a thing. Brian Callahan's going to bring in basically the first kind of offense that's built for passing since the days of Warren Moon, in terms of Titans history, I guess. But
Well, I'm gonna correct you on that. But a lot it's this era is so forgettable. But when Wisenhunt was the coach, he was definitely a pass first coach. But it was just so god awful that nobody really remembers it.
I
But there
forgot.
was yeah exactly. It's very forgettable. But yeah, that didn't go well. So hopefully Brian Callahan is much better than Ken Wisenhunt.
Yeah. I think he will be, and I think Bill Callahan's going to be such a huge addition in the offensive line room.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be able to transform even just the worst guy into somebody who can get some good snaps out of. You know what I mean? At least throw them in the scheme and figure out how they work in the scheme, and then play them that way and leave them there and just let them develop. But
I'm probably more excited about, and I love Brian Callahan. Callahan, that's who I wanted. But his dad being the offensive line coach, I'm actually more ecstatic with that than Brian because our offensive line has been trash
yeah,
for the last probably 5 years. So yeah, I'm excited
okay.
about that.
As one should be. I mean, just being a Tennessee native, I know how big the headlines are when the offensive line has been the problem all game long.
Yeah.
It's been a problem. Ronnie, you got a question?
Um, yeah. So how do you think, with all these new additions and the cuts and stuff like that that's been going on throughout the off season,
hmm
how do you think your team overall is gonna do, like, working together?
Working together, I think they're going to work together very well. I think that Brian Callahan so far he seems to be more of a team oriented kind of coach. I think with Mike Vrabel, as much as I loved him, after he kind of had a couple good seasons here, he was very, what, I can bring anybody in here and we're going to do well type of deal. I think that Brian Callahan is more focused on building, this squad up. I think that, Will Levis has done a great job this offseason. He had sex tape come out, but besides that, he has been, with his teammates. They were just in Cabo. He's one of the first people to get into the building and one of the last people out of it. So I think that this team is rewired, re-energized, having a new coach in here. I think that the players they seem to make more of an effort to be around each other. Doing a lot of team bonding things that we didn't see, for the past couple of years. Not to say
Yeah.
that's Mike Vrabel's fault, but at least so far in the offseason, it seems like there's more of a togetherness with this squad.
Okay, that's a pretty thoughtful answer. Honestly, that
Yeah,
was pretty all encompassing.
Yeah.
I just want to give you flowers on that
No, no.
one. So
exactly what I was looking for.
nailed it. So with some of the additions, is there anybody that you're thinking might fly under the national radar that could very well be a contributor for the Titans this season?
A lot of people are sleeping on Kenneth Murray. He came over from the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm really excited about him because when he played linebacker at Oklahoma and he was coming out for the draft, he had some of the best linebacker film that I used to watch his highlights at least a few times a week because they were just so fun to watch. Him and Reuben Foster in the last 10 years, those are the two linebackers that I just love watching their college highlights. You
Yeah.
know, with the Chargers, they're a dysfunctional organization, at least from their last regime, with coaching and everything like that, to where I'm wanting to see, how Denard Wilson can use some of his physical traits. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about Cedric Gray, the linebacker that we got in the third round. But Kenneth Murray, he's a special athlete, and we haven't had an athlete at the linebacker position like that probably at least since Jayon Brown. So I'm really excited about Murray. I mean, we know who Snead is. We know who Calvin Ridley are. I mean, those are Pro Bowl caliber players. But I think to answer your question correctly, I would say Kenneth Murray.
Okay, it's a valid answer. Ronnie.
Um, so he just asked about under the radar players. My
Mhm.
question is, who do you think is going to stand out the most?
I would say, and this is probably a kind of cliche answer, but I'm gonna say Will Levis, because if you think about it, the offensive line, it's gonna be at least halfway decent this year with Bill Callahan. Not to say it's gonna be a top five offensive line or even a top 10 offensive line, but if you can give us at least in the top 20 offensive lines, I'd honestly would be happy. Now I want better than that, but
Yeah,
if we can get Will Levis, more time in the pocket, a more quarterback friendly offense. I mean, he's got three solid wide receivers. He's got, a pretty solid tight end. He's got two running backs in the backfield. They can catch out of the backfield, and they're elusive when they get the ball in their hands. So I think that probably to answer your question, I would say Will Levis, because I just think that he's got all the tools to be a good quarterback, and I think he has all the tools, as in his teammates, to for it to be a good season. Not sure, like I said before, I'm not sure how that's going to translate and win so far, but I think the Titans have a good opportunity to be kind of like how the Houston Texans were last year. I thought that getting CJ Stroud was a big deal, and I think that with the new coaching staff, they had a last place schedule. The Titans have a last place schedule this year as well. So I think that gives them a chance to maybe start out hot.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna flip the script real quick. Do you have any questions about the Texans?
Ooh, it's a great question. I would say just how is CJ Stroud gonna do in his second year? As well as he played last year. It wasn't like, and I love CJ Stroud. I wanted the Titans to get him, no doubt. But the thing is just the offensive line. It's still not great. You know, CJ Stroud, is he gonna go through a sophomore slump? I mean, it's not like he threw 40 touchdowns last year, guys. He threw 23 and 5, which is great. Do not get me wrong, but he didn't put Tom Brady 2007 numbers up. He went 23 and 5 in a weak division. So I like the wide receiver core, adding Stephon Diggs, everybody that they've added on defense. We talked about that a little earlier. I think that they are going to win a division and they should be favored. But I would say, you know, does CJ Stroud, does he go through a slump? Because we do see this from time to time. But I doubt it, though. That's probably the only question, because I think that you guys are loaded. Y'all don't have many questions. Probably the only question that you got is Jay Stroud. Is he gonna do a sophomore slump? Who knows?
Yeah.
I think
Ron?
I think it. I'm not going to say it's a 50-50, chance, but there's always that chance that you know a second year rookie quarterback goes through that sophomore slump. But at the same time, he came off of a monster year and everything that all the records he broke and all the records he set, all
Hmm.
that stuff.
Hmm.
I think he's gonna want to continue that. You
Yeah.
know, he did a talk show. I don't remember who it was with, but they had the Lombardi Trophy sitting right next to him, and the whole show he didn't even bat an eye at it. And the lady was like, um, she asked him, this whole show you haven't looked at the trophy one time, and he was like, I'm not going to look at it until I have my own. So I think, just with that alone,
Hmm.
it's a pretty good chance that we see an even better Stroud. But
Yeah.
like I said, there's always that chance that he goes through that slump, with all the hype in his head and all the
Yeah.
pressure.
I mean, it happens. It happened. I mean, everybody thought that Baker Mayfield was going to be the second coming after what he did in Cleveland in his second year. Wasn't the greatest either. I don't know if that was the second or third year. I'm pretty sure it was the second, but correct me if I'm wrong. But like with C.J. Stroud, trust me, it's probably a 5% chance that he has a slump. But there is concerns, because this is okay. You have a diva as your wide receiver too now. Does that cause maybe some friction in the locker room? How good is your offensive line? You also have a lot of new pieces. Sometimes that isn't always the greatest thing. I don't believe it's going to happen with your team, but it happens. I mean, we've seen the Eagles. We see the Eagles do it all the time. I remember Vince Young was talking about Dream Team back in the day, and the team was god awful. So you
Yep.
have a lot of new pieces, but I think you guys have, y'all guys have a great foundation. Hey, buddy, what's up? What's up, man?
Somebody
But
must have just got home.
yeah. But I would say, sometimes, with first year coaches, this is also a point I've made with my squad. It's just with the first year coach, the other coaches are not really sure, what's going to be out there on the field. That's why, I think that's another reason why you guys started so good last year too, because teams just did not know what they were going to see. So now, there's a year of film out on you guys. Um, does the NFL catch up to Bobby Slowick? Who knows? I doubt it, but this is, I got to
Well,
answer your question. So,
I'm gonna answer that real quick.
yeah.
So here's my thought on this. I'm not so worried about a sophomore slump. I'm worried about a junior slump.
Okay.
So the sophomore slump, in my opinion, is less of a worry because uh, usually when there's a sophomore slump, it kind of comes down to like three categories. The team around him got worse, and so his play was worse.
Hmm.
The it's all here, and the game doesn't like slow down any further for them, and so they mess up and mess up more often and have a sophomore slump,
Hmm.
or it's prolonged because they're in a system that flatters them so well.
Yeah.
So the junior slump is more likely because I think Slowick was offered a couple head coaching interviews,
Hmm.
and at the end of this season, provided that the Texans do, halfway decent, he's probably going to get those calls again because he's young as
Yeah.
hell. And that's the move right now is to hire somebody at like 35
Yeah.
and just let it ride until the wheels fall off. So
Yeah. Smart.
that's what I'm more worried about. Stephon Diggs, if he's a diva, I have no problem. There's no doubt in my mind that Casario will find a way to get rid of him and
Hmm.
get something out of him.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Um, back to asking you questions. Let's see. What is the least intimidating part going into games against Houston this season from your perspective as a Titans fan?
The least. I would say it's just just questions on your offensive line. I don't think that you have the worst offensive line in the league, but I think just with a healthy Jeffrey Simmons, also with the Harold Landry and the Tavondre Sweat that's gonna eat up space. I think that the Titans could potentially do some damage there. Maybe knock C.J. Stroud off his spot a little bit. Maybe call some inaccurate throws. But I would probably say that's really the only position that you guys have that isn't strong. I mean, you have Joe Mixon, you have the best wide receiving core, probably in the South, one of the better in the league. I think the Titans are close to you, but I would still give Houston the edge with that. Your secondary is pretty solid. You've got Derek Stingley, who's a Pro Bowl caliber player, all pro probably in the future. You've got Jalen Petre. I actually loved watching his film too at Baylor.
Yeah.
We didn't need a safety his draft year, but I wish we could have drafted him. We could use him right now, but he's awesome. I know he's undersized, but he's a ball player, man. I've always enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about your defensive line. Your linebackers are solid too. I just think the only question mark about your team is at this point you don't have a great offensive line yet.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, it's really we're kind of hoping and wishing outside of Laramie Tunsil and Shaq Mason. I feel like we
Yeah,
know what we get out of those two guys. Everybody else
yeah.
remains to be seen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's just the problem. You got two great linemen, like with the two players you just said, Tunjul and Shaq Mason, but the other three are questionable. But if they can hold up, though, y'all can
yeah,
do some damage.
yeah. Um, Ron,
Who would be okay? So of the three other teams in the AFC South, who would be your biggest rival?
He's doing our ears a favor, folks.
Who would be your biggest, like the biggest games of the division between the Titans and the rest of us?
Like, what would be the biggest game? Are you saying like implications wise, like season implications wise?
Yeah,
I would say, I would say probably, I would say probably Indy. I think Jacksonville is in for a slump this year. To be honest, I think they're on a downward path. I mean, they just paid their quarterback a boatload of money. I don't like the talent that's around him. I don't like their defense as well. So I think they're going. I think they're going to be last in the division this year. To be honest, I would say, I'm going to say that Houston's going to win a division. I think you guys are going to go, maybe like a 12-6, 13-5, 13-5 type year. So I think fighting for a wild card position, it could come down to the Colts and Titans towards the end of the year. So I think that to answer your question, I would say most likely Indy, because I think they're going to be around that 9-8, 10-7, and I think the Titans are going to be around that same ballpark too.
Okay. It kind of touches on my question, I guess.
Mhm.
But I'll switch it. I'll kind of savor the flavor for that one. I'm steal one of Ronnie's from a couple episodes ago. Do you think it's more likely that when the Texans and Titans play, one team sweeps or it's a split?
that was my next question too.
I told you. I told you.
I think it's going to be a split. I think that it's going to be a lot of emphasis on playing you guys this year because us coming out with the Oilers jerseys and you not having C.J. Stroud and us kind of choking that game away. They should have Titans. There's and the Texans not having their starting quarterback and and other key players for that game. The Titans had no business losing that game. To be perfectly honest. But you guys, got to give you guys a lot of credit. You came in there and you won. And I think that it's going to be a big emphasis on beating the Texans here this year. So I think that the Titans are going to take care of business at home, and I think Houston will probably take care of business on their side too as well. We've lost to Houston the past few years here too. So I think the week that you guys come here, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a big emphasis on getting that W. So I think that the two teams will split.
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, from like 2019 until last season, we had split, and usually, with the exception of 2020 when you guys did the AFC Championship run,
Yeah.
we would beat you guys at home, and you guys would beat us at home.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's how
Or
it
it
is.
was vice versa. Or you guys would, because I remember it was the 2021 season where we had got the number one seed. And we had beat you guys, I think, in Houston. And then on a rainy day, because I just came back from California and we lost to you guys here and we shouldn't have. We just I don't know, just we had a lot of injuries at that time, and maybe that game it kind of caught up to us. But you guys beat us with Davis Mills. I remember I was sitting in the end zone that game
Yeah.
and we won. And
No, I
you
was
guys
there
won.
for that game too.
Yeah.
Was that crap? That might have been 2021.
It's a weird game. Des Fitzpatrick caught 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was like the
Um,
only passes he ever caught in his life.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he caught touchdowns. It's like, how can this dude not play? And then the game that he plays scores 2 touchdowns, but never saw the field again. I
Yeah.
always thought that was weird.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know what his deal was. That was something that, like, when they drafted him, they were talking about him so often on the radio.
Hmm.
It's like, oh man, this is Patrick doesn't even. He's on the practice squad. Blah blah blah. It's like, what? I mean, I think he was like a 5th-round draft pick or something. But
Yeah, and they moved up to get him, and they could have got Amon-Ra St. Brown if they had just stayed where they were.
yeah,
So that's another John Robinson. That's another John Robinson mistake.
yeah,
As well. So that's not something I want to talk about. But I mean, Des Fitzpatrick, when he got in the game, scored 2 touchdowns. So I'm just like, did we just need to play him in the game more? Some players they play better just when they're in the game. When I played football, I hated practice. I couldn't stand it. But like
Yeah.
when I got in the game, I thought I played pretty well. But it was just practice I hated. Some players are just like that.
Yeah, that's true. Ron, you got a question?
I'm trying to think of one. All my questions are used up.
Because it's
Um,
my bad. Okay.
do y'all think?
So
I'm sorry.
go ahead now, do your thing.
Realistically, like I haven't looked at y'all's schedule, but I'm not sure if it's like tough or if it's a tough schedule or I'm not entirely
Yeah.
100% on that. But realistically, what do you think y'all's record's gonna be?
I'm going to give you a range because on our pod Titans takeaways. Make sure y'all go follow us, subscribe, as long as with this channel as well. I would say I would give you in between 7 and 9 wins. The reason why I say that is because it's a new coaching staff coming in. It's a totally different way that we're gonna play. I do think the Titans are gonna start off relatively hot. I could see maybe a 3-1 kind of start. I think they've got some opponents that you know if you're just looking at him like, the Titans can't beat them. Well, it's not like they're playing the Chiefs 4 times. So pretty much anybody in the NFL is beatable to me, especially if you don't know what exactly is coming. At the beginning of the year, the Titans have a better wide receiver core. They're going to have at least a much adequate offensive line. That's really been the Titans' problem the past few years. It's just the offensive line has just been so bad that it's kind of hard to evaluate the other pieces of the team because the offensive line is just so terrible. You know, so I think that starting off, I think that they could start off 2-1, 3-1. Then that's when I think that the NFL kind of gets some film on them. Then that's during the middle of the season, they start to come up on some losses. Then maybe they have a late season push, and that gets them in between 7 and 9 victories. Could they win more? Yeah, absolutely. You never know. Nobody knew the Texans were going to win 9 games last year. So we'll see. We have a last place schedule, but and that does mean something for sure. But I mean, there's some random team that's good every year that nobody sees coming. So I think they could possibly be the Titans, but realistically, I would say probably in between 7 and 9 wins.
Okay. You kind of touched on it earlier. Let's just kind of give like a general 1, 2, 3, 4. Where you at the end of the season? Where are you putting the AFC South?
I'm gonna say realistically, I'm gonna say Houston 1. I'm gonna say the Titans 2. Just because I like Will Levis a little bit more than Anthony Richardson. I also think the Titans have a little bit. They have more weapons than the Colts do, at least right now. I'm going to say the Colts 3, but I think they're going to be very competitive. And then I'm going to say Jacksonville 4. I always have a team every year that I think is going to take a little bit of a nosedive. I said last year the Bengals were not going to make the playoffs. This was before Joe Burrow was hurt. I said they're not going to make the playoffs, and they didn't. And mainly, that might have been ultimately because Joe Burrow got hurt. But even if he had stayed healthy most of the year, I think that the teams in that division is caught up. And I think that's what Jacksonville is going to be. I don't like their wide receiver core. I do like Brian Thomas out of Jacksonville, but I don't think he's Justin Jefferson. Their offensive line is okay, decent, but their quarterback Trevor Lawrence, I've never been a believer in, even in college. I just thought that he just had a great team, but I didn't see a Andrew Luck type of talent. I didn't see a C.J. Stroud type of talent. You know what I mean? So I've always thought he was overrated, and I think that that's going to show itself again this year.
Damn, get him.
Yeah, and it's not even like a Jacksonville hate thing because I don't really, my team has done well against Jacksonville ever since I've been watching the team, so I don't have a hatred towards them like that.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, if you think look at it like this. Okay, so Jacksonville went to the playoffs 2 years ago, right? The Titans had to lose 7 games. The quarterback got hurt. The offensive line was the worst that I ever seen it. They had to lose seven games to even get a play in game. And Josh Dobbs almost pulled that off. Really, the Titans outplayed them, and they just had a Titanic collapse at the end, and Jacksonville got the victory. The only playoff win that Trevor Lawrence got was against Justin Sherbert, and the Chargers blew the game. They were up 27-0. So he got lucky on those two. He got lucky on those two games. Fast forward to last year, he's supposed to easily win the division. You have two rookie quarterbacks that come in. Actually, you have three. You have three. You have Will Levis, you have Anthony Richardson, and you have C.J. Stroud. Will Levis, he doesn't start day one. Anthony Richardson gets hurt. You have Gardner Minshew comes in. Jacksonville is supposed to easily win the division, right? So they get a play-in game here. It's a Derrick Henry funeral, right? Honorary game, memorial, whatever you want to do it, right? Whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
The Titans stink at the end of the year, and he just doesn't deliver. It wasn't like we have this elite defensive line and we just played all that expired. Yeah, we probably played expired a little bit, but it wasn't like we scored 40 points. The game was right there, and Trevor Lawrence, he missed passes. I don't believe in him. I'm sorry, and I know he had some injury issues last year. We do have to take that into consideration. But even at his healthiest, I don't put him in that tier one. He's in tier three to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. He's Ryan Tannehill with a good shampoo and conditioner routine. That's it. Literally.
Ron, do you have a question?
No.
Okay.
No.
Crap.
How many games y'all think y'all winning this year? How many games y'all gonna win? Y'all asking me all the questions.
Well, I think there's a world where every team in the division wins at least 8 games.
I can see that.
I think the AFC South is the most improved division collectively the entire offseason. They're like the Titans, I think, could finish in 4th and have 9 wins.
It's fair. I'll give you that.
So realistically, I think it'll be the tightest division of all of them because we'll kind of cannibalize each other. I think 10, 11 wins probably gets the division.
That's very realistic.
I think it'll to the very last week, like week 18, winner takes all. I mean, it's very possible. Like every team, like I could see, we play all week 18. So, I mean, if we both have 9 wins, winner out of the two of us hits playoffs.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that we played y'all at the end of the year. This is what I personally think will happen. I don't think that I think you guys are going to get more than 10 wins because I think that your coaching staff is great, and I think you have too much talent on your team to win. If you guys only win 9 or 10 games up until that point, that's not a successful season, to be honest. And I think you're going to get more than that. I think that you guys are going to have the division wrapped up, and I think that it's going to be a play-in game for us getting a wild card position. You guys being our arch rival, you're not going to take that. You're going to probably try to prevent us to get to the playoffs, most likely, unless you've got some injury issues that you don't want to take that risk. But I think that it's going to be a play-in game, but it's not going to be for y'all. I think y'all are going to wrap up the division probably the week prior or in week 16. But it might be one for us, though.
That'll be tough to do, and here's why.
You got to think about that 3 games in 11 days.
We have the Dolphins, then the Chiefs, then the Ravens, and then you guys. That's the final 4 games of the year.
The Dolphins at the end of the year, man, they always do this. Even when they have great to good teams, they always do not play well. I mean, we beat them at home at their spot last year, late in the year. They get very suspect at that time of the year. The Ravens, kind of the same deal. With them, at least in the Lamar Jackson era, at the end of the year, they're kind of like. Yeah, and then with the Ravens, with them getting Derrick Henry, I'm very skeptical to see what that offense is going to be. because you can't give. I mean, Derrick Henry is a what I like to call a rhythm running back. You can't just give it to him once on one drive and then don't give it to him for another 10 minutes. It's gonna be useless. The
Yeah.
more carries that he gets, the better off he is. So, are you going to take the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands that you paid what 300, $400 million? They have questions too. I mean, the Chiefs think the Chiefs are going to be legit this year. So I get it. They have a much improved wide receiver room. They got Patrick Mahomes. Their secondary isn't going to be as good because we took Snead, but they still have Trent McDuffie. They still have Travis Kelsey. They still have Taylor Swift. So I think the league is still in trouble with the Chiefs. But
Yeah.
I think you guys are going to have the division wrapped up at that point.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, I think that's a good spot to go ahead and wrap this thing up. So, folks, go ahead, head over to X, follow Mayr at Midtown Mayr on X. Also, go over to Titans Takeaways, like and subscribe over there. Hit the subscribe button over here while you're at it. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Ron, Fred, thank you guys for coming on, and go Texans.
Don't forget to follow the Instagram.
Tighten
guys.
up.
Yeah. And